All right, welcome on in everyone to the inaugural episode of First CSP. This YouTube channel is dedicated to bringing you the first council shoulder patch issue from all Scouting USA councils, both past and present. My family and I have been collecting CSPs for over 50 years. Collection started with my father in the 1950s and 60s, so we do have pre-CSPs within the collection that most people consider part of a first CSP collection. And then we continued with my time in scouting in the 90s, and then my younger brother as well in the 2000s, 2010s. So we've been collecting together for a very long time, mostly focused on first issues. Where the first issue is an activity issue, we also have gone to try and collect the first regular issue as well. And we hope over subsequent episodes of this YouTube channel to bring those to you, allowing people to see maybe first issues they haven't seen or councils that existed in their area before they were part of Scouts. And I really hope that all of you will enjoy this content and feel free to participate in the comments below, maybe requesting councils that you'd like to see or issues that you've never seen before, or maybe your current council, what was their first issue. By all means, feel free to drop that below in the comments, and it might be our next issue here on the channel. Since this is the inaugural episode, I think it's only fitting to kind of talk about how we get to CSPs as part of Scouting America. And so we'll start off by maybe going a little back in time before 1970 and the introduction of CSPs, and then bring us all the way up to the start of issuing council shoulder patches. Now, for anyone that happens to have landed on the channel that doesn't know what a council shoulder patch is, got a little example here. Council shoulder patch is going to be part of any Class A uniform. You can see the council shoulder patch is going to be worn on the wearer's left shoulder. It identifies the council area to which the troop or pack the scout is belonging to, and then below you'd have the individual units' numbers on the uniform. So that's a council shoulder patch. That is what we have as part of our uniform insignia today. And that basically started in 1970, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about that today in a moment. First, we're going to go back to the beginning. So in the beginning, early periods of scouting, kind of the first uniform insignia designating the location of a unit was going to be community strips. And let's head on over to the patch table, and we can look at an example here. So community strips started, I believe, in the 1930s, and we used as part of scouting community strips for uniform identification from 1930s to, I believe, 1950s. Obviously, this is well before my time in scouting, so if you are a fan of community strips in general, feel free to comment in the comments below, providing additional insight. But this is an example that would have been from the geographic location of La Cañada, which is in California. And so you'd have the community as the top strip. It was usually two parts, and the bottom was going to be the state that community was located within. And so those were used from approximately 1930 up to 1950 or 1955, I believe. And then from there we transitioned to what we called red and whites, kind of taking this idea of a two-part community strip and putting it together into a single format. So we have an example of that here as well. And that's going to come with our Birmingham Area Council example. So you can see the council is now listed along the top of the strip, and then the state is still a part of that information, but now it's in a one concise unit. And so we transitioned in scouting from the red and whites, the community strips initially, and then into the red and whites. Well, that brings us up to about 1970, when a memo went out from the national office. I believe it was Alfred Reber, who was the director of the National Supply Division for BSA, and they sent out a memo describing council shoulder patches being the new insignia standard, and along with that memo, they sent some samples. And we have those national samples here today. So there were 3 samples. We'll start off with the Circle 10 sample, and they all came stapled to a note card. It's one of the ways that you can actually identify the original samples that were sent out is usually with markings indicating, and in this case, we have one that the staple got left on the patch for quite some time with some moisture. So you actually have some staining here from the staples. But we're looking closely, we can actually see that there are the holes from the staples there as well. And that's generally going to point your attention to the fact that it is one of the originals, because reproductions were made, and we can look at that here in a moment as well. So these were sent out in 1970. They made 3 to give examples of the shapes that were going to be authorized for council shoulder patches. So this is the first, was a Circle 10 example, and this ended up being what most people think of as the standard shape for CSPs. From that point forward, it has become the most popular of the standard shapes used for council shoulder patches. So there's the Circle 10. Go ahead and flip it over so we can see the back as well. Again, these were cloth-backed patches, and like most collectors, we tend to use little labels that will affix. So that's our sticker on the back, just labeling it TA. T because it is a twill patch. You can see on the patch itself the original base fabric. When that's showing, it's a twill patch. If it was completely embroidered, it would be a solid or sewn patch. We'd use an S designation instead of a T. Again, as we go through any of these videos, if you have questions specifically about collecting, we've been doing it for a little while, so always happy to field those. Throw those down in the comments, or if there's anything you'd like to learn more about collecting, always happy to do videos on this channel about that as well. So that was the first sample. We have the second. Again, this is going to come in a different shape. So Columbiana Johnny Appleseed was the second sample. Probably the least used shape from that point forward. Again, this one has some staining here on the left from the staple. You can see very prominent the staple holes. This was, again, one of the original 1970 samples that was sent out. Flip it over, you can see, again, all these were cloth back issues. Plastic bag issues would come later as far as CSPs in general. And again, since it's one of the first sent out, it would be a TA issue. So there's the Columbiana Johnny Appleseed, the second authorized shape. And then the last one, we have a Paul Bunyan. So Paul Bunyan, try and get that centered here. And again, you can see kind of faintly over here, we do have the staple marks. And over here as well, it almost kind of comes up through the corner, but you can see that staple mark pretty clearly. And this was the third authorized shape. The fourth authorized shape was actually the red and white. So the straight sides with the arcing top that we looked at with the Birmingham area. So they officially designated 4 shapes you can use for CSP issues for your council going forward from that time. And we'll take a look at the back here. Again, all cloth based issues. Again, we've gone ahead and labeled that TA for our collecting purposes. And then there was demand after that 1970 sample set was sent out amongst councils to have either additional examples or collectors wanting to be able to obtain those. So in 1977, the National Office actually reproduced themselves the original 3 set, and you can find those available for collecting as well. And so here is actually a 1977, and I'm going to set up here for reference the 1970. So this is the original one. Again, you can see a little bit of staining from the staple. You can see very prominent staple holes here. What you will find on the reproductions is definitely there are no staples there. So the reproduction issues from 1977 are not going to have any staple holes because they were just produced and then distributed. When looking at these in person, I do see that this is going to be a slightly darker shade for the rolled edge border. This one seems a little bit lighter. Again, there's a slight difference in color, and to me this looks like a very fine twill, whereas here you can see some definite ribbing. Now that's not necessarily going to be guaranteed across the entire run of the reproduction. I don't have enough of the reproduced CSPs to know for sure that that's going to be an exact distinction all the time. One of the things that we definitely find in collecting is there can be multiple production runs where within that production runs there's kind of a small variation of ranges in particular colors or whatnot, but it may not necessarily warrant it being designated an entirely new issue. One of the things we hope to do with this channel is not only show you the first CSP issues, but where we have access to the comparable second variant or second issues, if they look similar or they're very close. A lot of times in our collection, we've been collecting long enough that we have those, and we'll be able to bring you the T1A, T1B, show you them next to each other. If we have multiple variants of the first issue, say there's 3 S1s and they have different backings, a plastic back, a cloth back, and a different appearing cloth back, we'll try and bring those to you so that you can see what some of the variations are. We'll always try and be as accurate as possible, although we are human, and as collectors we'll find some of the things are so closely related that there may be mistakes made. We do ask that you forgive us for any errors or omissions that were certainly not intentionally made as we bring you the collection and try and bring you as much information and kind of depth so that you can have the widest amount of understanding, both for entertainment purposes and for people who are collecting or want to start collecting, to know what things to look for or where issues happen to be similar, etc. So I certainly want to thank you guys for hanging out with us on this very first episode. Again, if there's a first issue from a council that you would like to see, by all means, drop it in the comments below. It might be next. Definitely going to try in the first few videos here on the channel to kind of showcase what we have as far as depth and breadth of the collection to bring value to all of you viewers, and hopefully you'll find it entertaining as well. If you're enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Share this with your fellow scouting or scouting alumni. We'd love to have as many people as possible enjoy the content here that we're bringing and share our collection, perhaps inspiring you to start collecting scouting memorabilia of your own. So until next time, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next one.